Good everyone. I hope you're having an amazing day. So today I'm going to talk about magical strings, magical numbers, why these are bad, why these things are called spaghetti code. Uh, this is not something what I've seen specific to Apex. I've seen a lot in the .NET code. I've seen a lot in the Delphi code. I've seen in other programming languages as well. And these are really bad. Bad means it's too bad. And I'm going to show you why it is bad in a second, right? And because the first thing is that let me give you a context, right? Let's say you wanted to get a data from an integration endpoint, right? And you are going to extract the data from a, let's say, from a JSON or from an XML, right? Depending upon the type of the data they're sending back, right? So let's say it's an XML, right? And so you have each node, and each node, say, you mapped as a field to an object. Now you hard coded all of this strings, right, in a code, which is fine. But now you hard coded that in a four different place, right? Which is fine as long as that integration endpoint fields do not change. So let me explain to you using a code, right? So that will make it more clear. And why I feel magical strings and magical numbers can cause a lot of problem and can lead to technical debt going forward. Okay, so let me go to developer console. So today I'm going to use developer console. I'm not using um, Visual Studio Code for this. Okay, so let me see. Let's say you have a code, something like this. Okay, let's say you have a method. So you have public static void. Yeah, sorry. Just say insert data. Yeah, or say fetch data. Okay, fetch data. Yeah, and you have a map here. So map of string. Yeah, and it's called key value. Yeah, list. Okay, now, so what are you going to do? So as usual, so you will probably do key value list dot get, right? Something like that. And you pass in the value, um, say field one, and so you're going to do string field one. I'm just writing a bad code. It is a pseudo code, right? Please do not blame me for the syntax error. I'm just showing you a pseudo code. Okay. Field two equals to key value list dot get. Okay. Right. This kind of looks okay, right? I mean, you might think, okay, this looks fine because I got field one and field two value, right? No problem whatsoever, right? Now imagine I have another place, yeah. Let's say another method, right? Say, you know, um, say I got two. Let me show you this. So let's say I have an XML file. Yeah. Okay. So let's say I have XML file called say data node. Yeah. And I say I'm just gonna put data node. I'm just gonna put yeah, field one. Yeah. I'm just gonna put some crap field one. Yeah. Just say test. Yeah. Let's assume this is the data you're getting from an integration endpoint. Okay, for the sake of argument. All right, so you're gonna have test2. This is a value, field 2, right? Now, so you're consuming this data somewhere and you're storing this into a key value list, right? And your key value list contain this, okay? So this is great. Now, and you wanted to use the same key value list, right? Somewhere else to say, fetch and modify data, whatever, a different method, right? So, and you're using the same, using the key value list. So Imagine that you're getting this, you're passing this integration endpoint and storing into a global key value list in a class, right? Which stores the value in a single transaction. Okay, so your key value list is accessible to both fetch data and fetch and modify data methods. Okay, so in this case, your key value will have field one and field two, and in the similarly you have field fetch and modify data uh, method. You will have access to key value list. Okay, so this is fine. You might think, okay, this looks great. Now think about a scenario, right? You have a, let's say, n number of, say, let's say you have probably 10 similar methods, and your integration XML file is, say, um, instead of two fields, it has like, say, 50 fields. Okay, 50 fields, right? Now, can you see a problem with having a magical string here? Exposing as field one and field two, field one and field two. Imagine, right? I mean, it has happened to one of the integration I've done in the past, that a user decided to, instead of map, instead of, they changed the field name on the integration side, on a SAP side or whatever, right? Instead of field one, they said, I wanted to call it as a field three, right? So, and this specific field one should match to field three from an whatever bizarre reason it happened. Okay. So now you see the implication here. How many places you have to change here? You have to go and change here, field three. Yeah, field three, right? It's just it's such a bad code, right? It's a stupid code because you might accidentally do something like this, right? You know, Humans make mistake, right? People get exhausted and they say, let's say they had a long day and they were extremely tired, and these kind of mistakes can happen, and these mistakes can cause a lot of issues on integration, right? So what's the best approach? Instead of that, just have a separate class, right? As a constant class. Okay, so something like this, a separate constant class, and in this, you have a method public, so you just have a, yeah, public static final, field one. Okay, field one equals to, whatever that, or you can say field three equals to field three, right? And so, and let's say it's belong to another class. So instead of this, all you have to do, a class name dot field three, whatever class name, right, it belongs to. Say if the class name is called constant class, whatever, dot field three, right? So it's pretty simple. So now if this endpoint changes, if the field three changes to field four, all you have to do, right? All you have to do, instead of, so you have to, you just change it to four. That's one approach, okay? And you don't have to copy paste, field four, field two, field four everywhere. Just have to use one constant. That's it, right? So whatever field value changes, or let's say if the field three changes to field, three three, whatever, right? So you don't have to change this field three. All you have to change the value here. So you're changing at one place, okay? So let's say, right, just for instance, okay? Now let's say the field three value is field three three, okay? Now for some reason it changes to field three four, okay? So what do you think? How many places you have to change? You're going to change at one place, okay? Here. You don't have to worry about the 50 other place, right? So it will work. So that's one of the advantage of having, having a constant there, right? Instead of exposing your magical strings, which is a bad thing, right? Because like I said, the potential problem where you might have is that you might have a rough day, and you, instead of field three, you might type field four. It can happen. It's happened to me as well, right? So I'm not saying that mistakes don't happen. Mistakes happen, but why to do the mistakes in the first place, right? You can do this approach to avoid it, right? Instead, make it as a constant. okay, and use that constant everywhere. So you have to change in one place. That's advantage, okay. And now let's talk about a magical numbers, okay. So magical numbers. So I'm gonna clear this off. Okay, so you have a magical numbers. I've seen this code a lot. Okay, magical numbers like if value equals to 2, right? Okay, and do something else. You know, if value equals to 3, you know, do whatever, right? So now imagine I wanted to use the 2 and 3 again somewhere else. Okay, let's say I copy pasted this here. Assume that different methods use the same value and it means the same. Okay, the 2 and 3 means the same in different methods. So now if I'm a new developer, right, if I'm a new developer starting up new, it doesn't matter experience or a new grad or who, right. When I look at the code, I will ask what the heck is 2 here, right? What is 3? What does 2 and 3 means? Let's say if 2 means, say, for let's say we have a value of 2, say, types, right? But let's say the 2 and 3 are, for the sake of argument, would say 2 means active, 3 means semi-active. I'm just giving you an example, okay? Now, if this is the value that comes from integration, that's 2 means active and 3 means semi-active. So there's no way I would know what the heck is 2 and 3 by looking at the code like this, right? So, and this is like, so that's one of the reasons why it's good to have a constant, right? Now I'll say public, create a constant class. If you have an existing constant, you can use that there as well. So depending upon how your code is structured, right? So I'm not saying you that for every code you see, you have to go and create a new class. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying try to look at your existing code and to see if you can fit a new constant into that class, okay? So if not, then you can have use a different approach of creating a new class. Okay, now we can say active, right, equals to 2. Now public static final active equals to 3, right? Semi-active, sorry. Okay. Now, so I will say this. Let's say the class name is const class dot active, right? I copy paste this one, right, and copy paste this, okay, and this one I'm gonna say right, and I will do this, okay, and I will do this. Right, now look at this and tell me whether is it readable or not. Now, if anyone looks at the code, they can say, okay, value equals to active. It makes sense, right? Rather than saying 2 and 3. What the heck 2 and 3 means? And also, if the value of active changes, right, you don't have to go and fix it in 5 different places. You just have to go and fix it in just one place, right? So that saves you a lot of time. It saves you a lot of time on testing as well. Because if you're going to manually go and change in every place, you have to do extensive regression testing, right? It's otherwise you might end up in breaking your code, right? And your customer might say, hey, it was working yesterday. Now after your patch, it's not working anymore, and that causes embarrassment, right? Because your customer might think you're not doing your job properly. You're releasing a bad quality release out there, right? So that's caused an embarrassment and cause a bad name to your company as well. So I'm just giving an example. These kind of small things, which you think it's really small, can add up and cause a huge technical debt if the code base grows extensively, right? I have seen this code and I've seen the potential issues, right? Like I said, I've been programming for years, so I've seen in different languages, right? It's not that I've started out Apex, right? I haven't. I started out as a C++ developer. Then I worked as a Delphi developer. Then I worked as a .NET developer. You know, I've used a lot of different technologies. So, and I've used JavaScript as well. So well, let's not even get into JavaScript. That's a different beast altogether, different scenario. They have different stuff there. But that being said, I will talk about JavaScript as well eventually. Um, so if you're someone who are a fan of magical strings and magical numbers, it's time to change that habit, right? Because, like I said, if you're working with me, your code will not get into production. End of story, right? People who works with me, they know that, right? I mean, this kind of code will not get into production. It's not happening whatsoever, right? You can make as much as fuss you want. You can say the project is getting delayed. I don't care about it, right? You're not putting a shitty code into production. End of story. So that's the way I work, and because I want the org to be, to be maintainable, right? We are not putting a dump inside. It's not a dumping ground, right? Anyone can come and wash their hand. That's not how programming works. And so yeah, and this is one of the classic example, not just on Apex. Like I said, I've seen in different programming language. So it can get very bad. That's why I use the word code smell, because code started to smell eventually. It started to get buggy. It started to act strange. Started getting intermittent issues, and then you wonder what the heck is going on. Well, this is what is going on, right? You should start writing a proper code to begin with, right? Okay, so this is one of the things I wanted to talk about today, right? I hope you learned something from this exercise, and I hope you really do, because please do not write magical string and I understand that you say, oh, it costs too much of time. That's a lazy way of programming, right? If you think that you're writing a good code costs a lot of time, I'm afraid to say you shouldn't be programming, right? You should go and look for some other job, right? Which actually you feel passionate about. Programming is not for you. End of story, right? Because, I have seen programmers, experienced ones, right, coming and saying to me, oh, organized code is too difficult to debug. Really? That means you don't know how the really object-oriented programming works in the first place, right? So I understand if you're coming from a COBOL development language, object-oriented programming can be overwhelming. Someone who worked 30, 40 years in COBOL, right? I respect that. I mean, I have a lot of respect for the person. Mainframe is a difficult technology. I don't understand COBOL, right? But if you're a object-oriented programmer, right, and you're saying that, look, I don't understand how this stuff works, that's just not good enough, right? So that's the way, that's I'm pretty honest about it. So yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about today. And I'll probably cover one more stuff. Then we're gonna end the core refactoring. Then we talk about financial force framework, which is an enterprise design pattern framework, which is extensively good and is used heavily on enterprise orgs. And why I think you should check it out if you are working on an enterprise org. It's pretty cool, right? That being said, I hope you guys have an amazing day. Take care.